Welcome back to the Animal Notebook channel. I am so pumped you're here for today's explainer, Zebra Zoom, Fast and Fearless. We're going to dive right in and unpack the science, the survival tactics, and just the sheer striking beauty of one of nature's most iconic mammals. Now, you've probably heard that old medical saying, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Basically, it's a rule that teaches doctors to look for the obvious answer first, right? Well, for today's explainer, we're taking that rule and tossing it completely out the window. Today, if we hear hoofbeats, we're thinking 100% about zebras. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll meet Africa's striped equids, dive into the mystery of those stripes, look at herds, harems, and communication, see why they are fast, fearless, and fierce, touch on conservation, and finally wrap up with 4 of your frequently asked questions. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. Meet Africa's striped equids. So, zebras are part of the Equidae family, which means their closest living cousins are horses and donkeys. And while early horse ancestors actually popped up in North America millions of years ago, modern zebras are uniquely African. Take a look at these high-definition details on screen. See how perfectly their physical traits match their lifestyle? They're serious herbivores, literally spending up to 60% of their day just grazing. Plus, they've got those really robust bodies, that stiff, upright mane, and those massive mobile ears that act like satellite dishes, picking up every little sound across the savanna. Now, check out this comparison of the 3 distinct species we have today, because they're actually quite different. First up, the plain zebra. This is the one you see most often, and they've got broad stripes that wrap all the way under their bellies. Then there's the mountain zebra. They hang out in rougher, rugged terrain and have a distinct, solid white belly. And finally, the absolute giant of the group, Grévy zebra. At up to 450 kilograms, it's the largest wild equid on the planet. They sport these super narrow, tight stripes and huge rounded ears. But tragically, as you can see, Grévy's is also the most endangered. Moving right along to Section 2. The mystery of the stripes. Okay, this has been one of the ultimate, endlessly debated questions in zoology. I mean, why on earth did nature give these animals such incredibly bold, contrasting patterns? Scientists have thrown out all sorts of visual hypotheses over the years. Are they camouflaged to blend into tall, dry grass? A built-in AC unit using convection currents to manage body heat? Or maybe it's social recognition, since every single coat pattern is totally unique. Well, get this. It turns out one specific theory currently blows the others out of the water scientifically. Studies actually show that the stark, high-contrast stripes totally short-circuit the visual systems of deadly biting insects, like horseflies and tsetse flies. It's like an optical illusion for bugs. The stripes confuse the heck out of them, making it practically impossible for the flies to pull off a controlled landing on the zebra's skin. How wild is that? Which brings us to Section 3, herds, harems, and communication. You know, zebras definitely aren't loners. Their survival absolutely hinges on herd dynamics. Look at these super tight-knit family groups of plain zebras. We call them harems. You'll typically find one dominant stallion, several mares, and their foals. And these family bonds, they are strong. They do this thing called allogrooming, where they stand head to tail and gently nibble each other's withers. It's basically their version of a family hug to reinforce their ties. They're also super chatty, communicating nonstop with body posture, facial expressions, and this really distinct 2-syllable bark that sounds exactly like quaha. Next up, Section 4. Fast, fearless, and fierce. When your everyday neighbors are lions, leopards, and hyenas, you better be fast. And zebras absolutely deliver. 65, that is 65 kilometers per hour or about 40 miles per hour when they are bolting from danger. And they aren't just short-distance sprinters. They can actually maintain a blazing 50 kilometers per hour over incredibly long stretches. But hey, speed isn't their only trick. Zebras are seriously tough. Whether they're pulling a crazy zigzag escape pattern to exhaust a pack of wild dogs, or delivering a literally bone-breaking kick to a lion's jaw with those massive hind legs, they are far from defenseless prey. Plus, they use their herd as a weapon. When a group of zebras takes off together, it creates what's called a motion dazzle effect. It's basically a dizzying visual blur of moving stripes that makes it nearly impossible for a predator to lock on to just one single target. Let's transition to Section 5, conservation and human culture. Now, despite how tough and resilient they are, zebras are facing some heavy, real-world threats from the modern world. It's a pretty stark reminder of human impact on nature. Did you know a plain zebra subspecies called the quagga? which only had stripes on its front half, oddly enough, was hunted completely to extinction by the year 1883. And today, the Grévy zebra has suffered a devastating 54% population crash just since the 1970s. The big issues: habitat loss, agricultural fences cutting off their ancient migration routes, and intense competition with domestic livestock for water and grass. But it's not all doom and gloom. Safari tourism makes zebras incredibly valuable to local economies, and that's driving some really powerful community-based conservation efforts all across Africa to protect them. All right, here we go. Section 6. 4 frequently asked questions. Let's shift gears and jump right into our rapid-fire finale, answering the top 4 questions directly from you, the Animal Notebook community. Question 1. Are zebras white with black stripes or black with white stripes? Come on, it's the ultimate zebra riddle. We all want to know the definitive scientific answer to this one. Well, surprise! Embryological evidence totally proves they are actually black animals with white stripes. Yeah, the base coat of a developing zebra embryo is completely dark. Those iconic white stripes only show up where the genetics literally suppress the production of melanin, the dark pigment. Pretty amazing, right? Moving to question 2. Can zebras be domesticated like horses or donkeys? I mean, since they're so closely related, you've probably naturally wondered why nobody is riding zebras around or using them in agriculture. The short answer? A hard no. I mean, sure, there were a few quirky attempts in history. Lord Walter Rothschild actually drove a zebra-drawn carriage right through the streets of London in the early 1900s, but any real long-term domestication entirely failed. You see, zebras have survived side by side with Africa's apex predators for millions of years. Because of that, they've got this super unpredictable temperament, immense aggression if they feel cornered, and an absolute hair-trigger flight response. Okay, question 3. How on earth do zebras sleep without getting eaten by predators? If you're living on a savanna crawling with lions, you've got to have some pretty clever resting strategies. It turns out they use a brilliant anatomical trick called a stay apparatus. It's this passive locking system right in their leg joints that uses literally zero muscle energy. So they can totally doze off while standing completely upright, ready to bolt in a fraction of a second. Now, when they need deep REM sleep, they do have to lie down on the ground. But when that happens, there is always at least one wide-awake sentinel standing guard watching over the resting herd. And finally, question 4. Do any 2 zebras have the exact same stripe pattern? We've talked so much about these iconic coats, but let's talk about their true individuality. The answer is absolutely not. No 2 are alike. A zebra's stripes are as completely unique to them as your fingerprints is to you. In fact, right after birth, little foals actually imprint on their mother's specific, unique pattern so they can recognize her in the middle of a massive, chaotic herd. Which really leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on today. If nature puts this much staggering, intricate, and totally unique design into the coat of just one single zebra, what other brilliant, hidden complexities are just waiting to be discovered across the vast animal kingdom? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep asking those amazing questions, and I'll catch you next time.